When I see Democrats talk about voting for Joe Biden, one thing I hear quite a lot in defense of Joe Biden is you vote for the administration, not necessarily the man in himself. Which is true, and this is how you should vote in every election. But I can see how that could be useful in defending Joe Biden right now, because a lot of the roles of the president isn't being served necessarily directly by the president, but by the people around him. National security advisors, Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken, other people that have been appointed by him on the National Labor Board or as press secretary, etc. So it's the people around him. You elect an administration, not just a man. And so this has been a big talking point to defend Joe Biden, but it should also be a talking point when talking about the future Trump administration if he wins again. Because it's not just going to be Donald Trump walking in there. It has been made very clear by Donald Trump that if he goes in there again, he's going to be going in there with a cadre of loyalists. One complaint you will often hear from Trump supporters, and I will also make this complaint as well, is that Trump was not very good at picking a team around him. Now, my complaint would be a little different, because the Trumpian complaint would be Donald Trump picked a bunch of disloyal establishment people because he didn't have a ton of experience in this type of work, and so he just pointed in the direction that those who he thought were experts and had his and the country's best interests at heart, picked them. Ended up getting people like Rex Tillerson and John Bolton, and those that the wider public, with at least the populist base of the Republican Party, do not like. But this time, he's not going to be restricted by naysayers and anti-Trump establishment shills or whatever. They're going to be backed up by true MAGA patriots, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, coup the government Michael Flynn, and a bunch of other people to light the country on fire, right? So that's the Trump, I threw in the light the country on fire part, but that's the Trumpian angle. My angle would be he was inexperienced, so he didn't know what he was doing when it comes to picking people. Then he ended up being a mess in office. Some of those people left because he was bad at picking people, and they were just never going to agree with his agenda. Others left because he was not a good boss. He didn't treat them well, or he screwed them in some way, or his policies was just so out of line with what they aligned with as either on a constitutional level or an ideological level that they jumped ship and then talked all about it to the press. John Bolton being one of the more visible examples of that. So that's a different interpretation. But now, this time, Trump wants to go in with his cadre of loyalists and a plan for institutional control, including firing tons of people within the federal government, bureaucrats who would then be replaced, tens of thousands of them, with Trump loyalists who would be more willing to do his bidding, so the institutions have less resistance to his agenda. And one of the authors of Plan 2525, which on top of wanting to make cuts to veteran benefits in order to try to lessen the deficit, on top of trying to go after a woman's right to choose, on top of trying to take away the National Labor Board's ability to, a whole bunch of stuff that's extremely negative, and you can all go Google online. The vast majority of it that I've read was not, let's just say, no bueno, okay, not a good time. Those guys who actually wrote up those plans, Project 2525 was written up by the Heritage Foundation. The president of the foundation went on TV to give what almost sounded like a dire warning for the Republic, as he talks about the blood of the Second American Revolution and how it will remain a bloodless coup, a bloodless takeover, if the left allows it to be. Listen to this. I'm not being hyperbolic here.
Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of all this nonsense from the left, we are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday. And in spite of all of the injustice, which of course friends and audience of this show, of our friend Steve know, we are going to prevail. Number two, to the point of the clips and of course your preview of the fact that I am an early American historian and love the Constitution, that Supreme Court ruling yesterday on immunity is vital. And it's vital for a lot of reasons, but I would go to Federalist number 70 if people in the audience are looking for something to read over Independence Day weekend, in addition to rereading the Declaration of Independence. Read Hamilton's number 70, because there, along with some other essays, he talks about the importance of a vigorous executive. You know, former congressman, the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave Bratt, any president, put politics off to the side, any president having to second guess, triple guess every decision they're making in their official capacity? You couldn't have the republic that you just described.
I mean, we've existed in America without that court ruling for quite a significant time. So, I mean, Trump was president during that time. So, I mean, Biden was president. So many people were president. So, I mean, yeah, it's not hard to imagine. I lived in that America.
But number three, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily, is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
That closing line threw me for a loop. What did he think that was going to be read as? How did he think that people were going to perceive that message? Is this somebody that cares about like high tensions in the country and wants to keep us off from shooting each other? Is that the perception you're getting from someone who's like, if the left allows us to take power, then it will be bloodless in this Second American Revolution? What is the perception people are taking? That if anybody does anything to stop them, we're going to go out and we're going to bam, bam, bam. That's the perception people took from this. Now, somebody could try to say, well, what they meant is that the only way the left will stop us is by, getting bloody and using violence, and us, the great moral, upstanding warriors of the Constitution at the Heritage Foundation, would not stoop to violence, and we will be allowed to succeed as long as the left doesn't use violence. That's not how it got read. That's not how it got read by, even a lot of conservatives online that was reacting to this. It got read by the majority of people as basically an open threat. It got read as a threat, as let us take control or we will make it bloody. That's how it got read as. Now, if that's not what they meant, then the Heritage Foundation should clarify and say, when we said that our Second American Revolution will be bloodless as long as the left allows it to be, we were not threatening anyone. We were just making a socio-commentary on the Antifas. They need to clarify that, because all that's being shown right now is basically a rah-rah, we're going to grab the hair of American democracy, pull back, replace everybody in American institution with our goons, and if you do anything about it, we'll crush you. That's what it sounds like. That's what's being taken off from there. And then to say it in such dramatic fashion, too. He must have known what he was doing. He must have known the dust he was going to kick up. And he did it anyway in a time of unparalleled division in the United States for who knows how long. That type of rhetoric at this point in our country's history is poisonous. It is toxic. It is radioactive to our democracy. And it makes me question, when people use rhetoric like that, how much they value our democracy, how much they value our republic and all the people who live in it. Because if that's the type of tensions you want to add more like sparks to, you want to beat up the tensions there, you want to rile people up, it makes me question how much you want us unified more than you want the short-term political benefits that you get from shock jockeying the American public. They got all the guys missing is a brown shirt. It's not a good look. Not a good look for the folks at the Heritage Foundation. But this is not the only top Republican leader or thought leader who is currently making the agenda for Trump's plans in office 2024 moving forward, who is causing a lot of stirs right now. Ed Martin, one of 3 people who was recruited to help craft the Republican Party's platform at the convention going into 2024, was recently found to have spoke about the possibility of jailing women who get abortions and advocating for a national ban that Trump continues to say will not be the position of his campaign as their nominee. But if we're getting people on the boards, if the people are being appointed or being put in these positions with power, with influence, talking about banning abortion on a national level, I mean, Congress has acted without the president's discretion before, and the idea that he couldn't lay the groundwork for these people to work off of him, which is certainly what they want, is not so far-fetched. Listen to what the CNN reporter Andy has to say.
Tonight, newly uncovered remarks by a key RNC official pushing for some of the most extreme restrictions on abortion. Remarks found by CNN's K-File. Ed Martin is one of just 3 people that the party chose to lead its platform committee. And over the past 2 years, he has advocated for a national abortion ban, no exception for rape or incest.
If the conversation is, well, should there be a federal ban, and the consensus is that there shouldn't, I disagree. I disagree with the consensus. If you ban abortion in Louisiana, is a doctor who has an abortion breaking the law? Yes. Should he be punished? Yes. I think that seems obvious. What is the punishment? Not sure yet. Could be criminal, could be a jail sentence, I suppose. It's an absolute scientific fact that no abortion is ever performed to save the life of the mother. None. Zero. Zilch.
Let's just be crystal clear on that. That last comment.
It's like a straight up lie. It's like you might as well just be like, radiation has never, ever, ever been effective against cancer. You just might as well just complete medical misinformation just right on the face. Like, it's just lie about anything at this point. Just lie about the world around you in any capacity. Butterflies, they can't fly. They can't. I don't know. The sky purple
Is false. Abortion is provided in some cases as a life-saving measure for women. Out front now, Andrew Kaczynski, senior editor of CNN's K-File. So you went and dug through a lot of these comments from Ed Martin's over the last 2 years or so. His views on abortion are, I think, extreme actually puts it mildly.
Yeah, that's right. And Ed Martin is a name that you might not know, but this is someone who's going to wield significant influence over the party platform. That's basically the blueprint that the party puts out as their principles, that how Trump is going to govern, how what Republicans are going to run on. And he's one of 3 people selected to help craft it. And his position on abortion is really, it is about as extreme as you can get. He supports a national ban. He doesn't support exceptions for rape or incest. And he even has discussed the possibility of jailing women who get abortion. And this is all coming at a time when Republicans, abortion has really been such a losing issue for.
It is such a massive loser for Republicans. I mean, the vast majority of instances where abortion was on the ballot, voters, including in red states, have chosen a woman's right to choose. When it comes down between banning abortion or enabling women to make their own medical decisions, the vast majority of Americans have chosen freedom, personal decision making with medical experts over bureaucrats in suits controlling a woman's hymen and vagina.
For Republicans, we've seen Trump sort of try to moderate his rhetoric on abortion, but Martin has actually pushed back on that. He said that Trump isn't trying to water down the party's position on abortion, but some of those views that he supports on abortion, they are so extreme. He has said he does not even support abortion in the case of this 10-year-old Ohio girl who was raped. Take a listen to those comments.
This 10-year-old was brought up as an example of why abortion is necessary. Now, I have said over and over again that, you know, the examples that shouldn't be the rule, right? You can't let the exceptions be the rule, especially when you get engaged in a debate. And I refuse to do it.
I mean, that is.
But what I hate about this is It's just they don't want to deal with the reality of what these hammers to like. If you believe that at the final weeks of pregnancy in the third trimester, at that point, development's so far along that like abortion at that stage without deep medical necessity should be restricted. And by the way, there are tons of restrictions on that. States restrict that type of stuff all the time. They're fully capable of pass legislation to restrict that. Roe versus Wade allowed for restrictions to be placed upon third trimester abortion, stuff like that. And the vast majority of abortions that are happening at those late stages are due to medical necessity. But like the thing that gets me here is when you're talking about taking a sledgehammer to this policy, like complete ban, then you're going to have to talk about, okay, so you believe in all instances it should be banned. Okay, what about these instances where it's medical necessity? Well, he doesn't believe that medical necessity exists because he lives in an alternative universe. Okay, well, what about when these 10-year-old girls get raped, which would also have medical necessity attached to it? Oh, well, let's not talk about that example because that example's uncomfortable and you don't want to make rules based off the example. You don't want to make rules based off of examples. That's how you make rules all the time. You find like, oh, this is an exemption, so we need to make an exemption for this law for this area. For example, in a lot of countries where there's extremely steep gun control policy, where basically no one could buy a gun, farmers who live out in the middle of nowhere are still allowed to buy shotguns and rifles because they don't want to leave these farmers undefended if a giant ass bear comes through and starts mauling their family. Or, I mean, in the United States, we've got problems with wild hogs in a lot of areas in the Midwest. Like there's exceptions to the rule. The society wants to bring down the amount of gun crime. Society decides that the way to do that is to ban guns, but then those bans are not placed on farmers or people of certain professions because they're an exception to the rule. Guess who else would also have that exception? Police officers, all sorts of people, because there's exceptions to the rule. And so with you taking this sledgehammer to an issue that at best should have a scalpel, figuratively and literally, it's not good policy making. And saying, oh, I don't want to talk about the examples because they're uncomfortable or they don't make us look good. It's just not good. Looks weak.
That is really something because I think we all remember that story. I know you also found some remarks. He talks about the possibility of jailing women, I should say, who've had abortions. I want to play that.
What do you do with the woman that has an abortion? I don't think we have a good answer yet. Some people say that they shouldn't be held liable in any way. Some people say they should have some kind of penalty, something on their record. I don't know. I mean, I certainly think that you're going to find a lot of people that step away from jail time because they're going to say, well, this is, but if you believe it's a baby, I do, then you have to do something to protect the baby.
So he doesn't quite have an answer. But it seems even if other people are opposed to it, he's not opposed to jail time.
Well, that's right. And Martin actually compared abortion later on in that radio show from his, that's where we found these clips, to a family that was intentionally starving a child to death. He said the state in that instance would step in. So we compared that to abortion. And he also argued sort of philosophically about jailing women who get abortion. He said you need to frame the...
Man, I don't want to stick on abortion too long here, right? But I will never understand the idea of treating a zygote with the same moral weight as a full-grown human boy. It makes no sense to me. A zygote has no ability to sense, it has no ability to taste, it has no ability to see, it has no ability to live, which is what gives life value. It has not ever done these things. This is in a state where somebody once could do it and now can't and might regain its ability to do in the future. It is simply the tiniest possible organism that might one day, if left to its own devices and given 9 months of development, be able to start to comprehend those things that give life value. But at that stage, what value does the life have? It only has value in the idea of what it can become, not what it is now. It's not a life worth living in the way that we would describe it. It's not a life worth protecting in the way that we do in the West any more than as an investment to possibly have a future life. It has the same mental capacity as a blade of grass. And nobody throws a hissy fit when we go mow our lawns. And I know that might be a crass way to talk about it, but when we talk about jailing somebody for having an abortion because, oh, this is human life and it's the same thing as a full-grown boy, you're insulting our intelligence, because it's not the same thing as a full-grown boy. We can see through pictures and photographs and videos that it's not the same thing as a full-grown boy.
Philosophically about jailing women who get abortion. He said you need to frame the argument, and he said if you accept the framing that pro-abortion advocates use, where they say it's about a baby, he says then you can't jail women. But if you use the framing or it's about a woman's choice, but he says if you use this framing that it's about a baby, then he says the discussion of punishment for a woman is something that can be discussed.
I know you reached out to the RNC. What did they tell you? What did they say about these views, and whether these views are actually making it into the party platform?
So the RNC told us that the platform committee has yet to convene, discuss what the language should be in the final document. That's a quote from their spokesperson. We did reach out to Martin several times. He didn't respond to us. And then, of course, Trump has said that he supports exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother, but these are the people that they're putting in the RNC to put the platform together.
Well, look, it's important, and it's important to hear this and to know who is in charge of that platform so that we can certainly see once we have that platform. Appreciate it as always. Thank you. Good to see you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. But I appreciate the open honesty. That's what I'm saying. Fantastic, too. I appreciate the transparency when it comes to going after people's bodily autonomy. I appreciate this and getting to the logical endpoint, because again, if life begins at conception and it's of life of value in the same way that he's talking, then the moral conclusion could only be that if a woman gets an abortion, you have to arrest her. You have to put her in prison. You've got to put her in the labor camp in the middle of Siberia to work out the rest of her days for killing a little boy. But we can tell from our eyes that a zygote is not the same thing as a little boy, that the medical decisions that a woman has to make in order to preserve her own health or to preserve the health of her household at early stages of development is not the same thing as taking a knife to your 4-year-old child. And to treat it that way, legally speaking, would be the ultimate sign of a brain-rotted society to its core.